Hello friends and happy spring. So exciting. Today I wanted to share a little bunny with you. So easy, you guys. I do them from the back because I just think that cute little tail is irresistible. And I'm going to breeze through some of the supplies here. If you've painted with me before, you probably know what supplies I'm going to be using. Of course, I'm going to be using that wonderful, such great texture, nice rough texture. Look at how strong that paper is. I love it. You can also, it's perforated, so you can tear it out if you like, but I label all of mine and then I keep them and refer back to them. And I have a whole little library of these, which is so great to refer back to. I just organize them by either holidays or something I'm working on, maybe even seasons. And then the brush I'm going to be using is if you have the Debbie Walker Art pencils or paintbrush set we came out with last fall. This is my 8 angle shader, and I'm going to be using my 8 round, but I will for you down below. I'll just link some of the, my other favorite is the Princeton brushes, which I use for years. There's also a whole set of these Degatos. You guys, I introduced you to these maybe a year and a half ago. They're still fantastic. I still have all of mine and use them. So if you're a beginner and you don't want to make that huge investment, you can get a whole set of these Degato brushes. I'll link them below for like under $15. They're fantastic. If you take care of them, they will last forever. So with that being said, I've got my 2 wells of water, my little bright white Meaden well. I'm also going to be using my Meaden palette and then my Paul Rubens pigments. This is the professional set, but absolutely, if you have that student set we've all been using, great place to start, students. Totally the most beautiful color choices here. Nice and creamy and thick, yet can be really transparent. So that's the My Lang palette. They're very similar. This one, the Pro palette's just gonna have a little more light fastness, meaning their fade resistance. So what I wanna do first is we're going to be using like a wet and wet. So what I'm going to do is just grab a little bit of the black paint. I don't use black very often, and I'm going to put it in my palette here. One palette. I have several here I'm going to be playing with. Well, we can use this one. So there's the black. Now that is way too strong for me. That's why I don't typically use black. I'm going to really wet it down. So I've got this nice, very pale gray in here. And I'm going to use, of course, some of our beautiful rose pink. You know, that's my favorite. So I've got that in my palette here. And then we'll go into, for some of the little wildflowers, we'll use some of our green. I've got sap green here. You probably have your own beautiful green. And we always want to start with these lighter values because we can always build up. Meaning when I go to use a lot of these, they're going to be, especially like that black is about 20% pigment, 80% water, really light because I want it to be more like a gray. The green, I just mixed about 50-50 because I can lighten it, bring it up on my side of my palette, tap, get all that extra water off. The Princeton Velvet Touch is going to be very similar to my brush. It's quite snappy, doesn't just soak up like a sponge, all that water. So, compared to like maybe a Neptune or something. All right, what I want to do is let's just start with our cute little bunny here. So I'm going to just use water. I just have water on my brush here, and I'm going to put him here. So I'm just wetting my paper, a little rabbit body here. Just like that. Hopefully you can see that, and then come out to the side with some little feet like that. This is the back of him, and I did leave a dry spot in the middle, maybe for his tail. So hopefully you can see that. There we go. And then I'm going to go in and just drop in some of that paint. I'm not going to bring it all the way to the outer edge of my paint. Water. So I'm going a little bit inside because I want it to be fuzzy around the edge. So there we go. We're basically done with his little body. I'll add a little bit more in there. Let's do his little head up here. There we go. So cute. And then I'll just drop in some of that gray. So I'm picking up a little bit of it, but I've got quite a bit of water. And just tap in. Our bunnies are all out around here, guys. They are so cute, little tiny ones. So they must have just had babies. So very wet and wet, because I want them to look that fuzziness. And then I will take a little more of that gray. Now here, I'm not going to use wet and wet. I'm going to use the tip of my brush, but resting my hand here, and it's about 3 o'clock, and a little bit of the side of my brush up and down, coming up onto the tip. So let me move this so I can get to the side. Press and down. Look at that. So perfect, right? Isn't that the perfect little bunny butt? Then I'm not even going to rinse my brush. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of that gray and just dab in here and there. And let that kind of mix around. This is, you know, the back of his head, just to give him a little bit of that pink look. And then I'm picking up some of that pink paint and going to, just like that. Now that is a little dark for me, so I'll go in with a dry, I wet, rinsed, tapped off my brush, and just pick up a little bit of that. A little bit of this one as well. Look how cute he is. Wait, okay, so here's the real big one. Now you could do his little tail pink if you want. I've got my mirror series. I haven't used this one in a while, probably since Christmas. And you can see how much I've used it. This is probably my 3rd set. You could even use a metallic here, guys, if you have a metallic, but I really wanted to make his fuzzy little tails. I'm just swirling this around, but I'm not putting pressure on the tip. I'm really putting the pressure on the side of my brush, but look how beautiful that is. And then I'm going to go in here and tap in for his little tail. Look how cute. Oh my gosh. Is that the cutest? I'll hold this up so you can see. I could even shine that up a bit. Maybe his little feet. All right, let me hold this up so you can see how adorable this is. This would be the cutest card. Look at that. And then once this dries, I'll go in and add a tiny bit more of that. What we're going to do now is go in for our grass. So this is where the angle brush, you guys, is perfect. And again, if you don't have my brush, they are sold out currently, but we're going to bring them back in late summer for a few more sets, depending on how much, you know, interest there is in them, of course. So I'm going to load my brush here on the side, tap, tap, tap. And now this beautiful chisel edge, look at that. So thin, is perfect for grass. So I'll just go in and start laying in little grasses. And then I might even add in some darker colored grasses. So I'm going to use, let's see, I think I'll use a little bit of this hooker's green. It's just a little bit darker. And mix that. Oh my gosh, you guys, you got to try this. I'm using the back end of my brush for some smaller ones. Little smaller grass strokes. Add in a tiny bit of water. And, oh gosh, how fun is this? Look how adorable. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush. Actually, well, we can use either brush, this one or a round one, and just go on the bottom here. And with just a little bit of water, bring some of that out like that. So it looks like he's sitting almost in a field. And then we'll go in and start adding in. I might just vary that a little. Like that. We can always go in and add some more too. Let's go in here with our 8 brush and we can add in some little flowers. So I've got some yellow here, which would look like little daisies or gladiolas. Just loading my brush, about 50-50, 50 paint, 50 water, tap, tap, tap. And let's do some little flowers. So like this. Just be kind of random here. I'm just dab, dab, dab. You could even do some little dots. There we go. And I'm going to grab some pink because I want to blend in some of that pink that he's got in his body. So let's grab a little bit of that. And I'm kind of watching where I'm putting those. So if my eye comes to this dark pink and I don't blend that out around my painting, your eye's going to get stuck there. So let's just add in a couple here. We could even incorporate a little bit of blue. So let's grab maybe our favorite turkey blue, but I'm getting a very light value. So I've got quite a bit of water in there, probably 80% water, 20% paint. Tap, tap, tap. And we'll add maybe some, I know right here, they just announced the lupines are out. So I'm going to try and get out this weekend and see those. But meanwhile, we'll add those into our painting here. Look how pretty all the different colors. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit of shadows in him now that that dried. So I've got a very light value of that gray. And this is going to glaze over. Now it's pretty cold here, so hopefully this is dry enough. So I might just use this side of my brush, maybe a little bit under his neck. Now see, it's still a little wet. So I'm getting a little bit of a blend, which is okay. That's not a big deal. Just going to tap in. There we go. Just a little bit. I don't want too dark. Spread it out. There we go. And hopefully you can see his little tail there. I'm going to give it one more go. A little bit more of that to define it. Just loading my brush on its side. Again, you could use really any little iridescent paint, and I gave him quite a large tail there too. And then again, if you're good at calligraphy, you could write Happy Easter up here. I'm not, so not even going to attempt that. Let's add, let's see, I feel like I want to add a tiny bit more green here at the bottom. So I'll just pick up a little bit more of that. There we go, just a few. You could have even just splattered this paint on. That would have worked too. There we go. Oh, so cute. All right, everybody, I hope you give that a try and, you know, most of all, have fun. Make some fun cards with these, and I will see you all soon. All right, happy painting.